All right, so we're in Matthew 5. We're at the Sermon on the Mount. Now, one thing we've talked about a lot of the teachers as we go through this is we were really hoping to try to foster some participation. So we really want you guys to talk, okay? And so
I'll take up.
No, we'd love it. And I've been thinking, no, I mean it's great. I mean it's really what I was laughing last night. I was thinking, I'm like participation, and then it's like, what verse do you get? And I look and it's like, blessed are those who mourn. And I'm like, wonderful, wonderful, And so there's all types of like as a teacher. So I teach and we try to do this course all day with 17-year-olds who, if you don't know, are the most uncooperative of any age, and so you're trying to get them to participate, and there's like the carrot or the stick mentality. Can you reward them into participating, or can you punish them into participating? Okay, and so I have no reward for you, but I've thought if participation's not fostered, we'll do like a dance praise break where Michael will come up here and pray play, and we'll all dance, and we're going to keep dancing till morale improves. It is. And so
my wife will be excited.
Yeah. So if you can't dance, participate. All right. So, but if you'll turn to Matthew 5 and just feel free to jump in. I'm going to ask some questions, and I'm going to try to ask some open-ended questions. There's no right or wrong. I mean, I guess there's wrong, but you got to work really hard to be wrong. So just feel free. And I'll say this, as you read through the Beatitudes and the Sermon on the Mount, it's so applicable, it's so wide-ranging in issues it deals with, and we'll talk about that. And everybody in here has different experiences and seen these things in your own life. And I mean, there's people in here, we have younger people of middle age just starting their families, people whose kids are growing into high school, and then, some of you guys who have retired, and your kids are grown, and so your perspectives really do add a lot. I want you to know that for me personally, as someone who's got a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, I really do enjoy listening to you guys whose kids have grown up, and some of your experiences and the advice you have. I mean, that is, I think, a blessing of the church, of community. So please share. Please share. Don't be scared to share. Yes, Sheila.
I spent the day on Wednesday with my mother-in-law, who's 89. She was in the hospital that day, but she was released that day. And I really, truly felt like I was revisiting the 3-4-year-old stage of my way or the highway, or I'll have a tantrum.
Well, if you ever need more, I need a babysitter. Yeah. All right, so we'll start here. I'm going to start back at the beginning, and we're going to read through 5 through 4, 1 through 4. When Jesus saw the crowds, he went up on the mountain, and after he sat down, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth, and he began to teach to them, saying, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted." Now, one of the things that sticks out to me in this is, we have access to more sermons, preachers, things like that than ever. And I think it's important to point out that nobody could preach like Christ. Like sometimes we get caught up in everyone's opinion and everybody's, and we have and there are some brilliant people that God has gifted, grand minds that have helped us and are a blessing to us. But make no mistake, there is one, king of all preachers, and it's Jesus. And this is the first major recorded sermon that we get. And it's so interesting to me is how it takes shape. So he's going through Galilee. He goes up on the mountain. He's got huge crowds following him because of all he's done. right? And he sits down. Now, the sitting down is important detail because that meant you were about to teach. So like rabbis, great teachers, when they taught, they sat down. That's how you knew that it was like authoritative instruction. Does that make sense? It's kind of like in the classroom when the professor gets up behind the podium, you know it's not casual conversation anymore. Like this is meant for you. This is instruction. And so these thousands of people come up. Christ goes up the mountain. You know, it's probably not that big, maybe more like a hill, you know, but to them. So he goes up, you know, I can't picture it. It may be bigger than what I think. And he sits down, and they all recognize that he's about to teach. He's about to preach. And this is how he starts. And I think it's so, like, mind-boggling to think about. The Beatitudes. First ever sermon, first major teaching, and this is how he starts. Now, why? Anybody? Like, why? Why start this way? Why the Beatitudes? You know, he doesn't come out and say, here's a list of 10 things you need to be doing. Pharisees had that covered. This is what you need to do in the temple. That's Sadducees. Like he doesn't give. Everybody's taught. Remember what they say at the end of this? No man has ever taught with such authority. Right? Because no one could get along. The Sadducees, Pharisees only quoted other people. They would never claim their own ideas. No one would directly tell the people and really truly instruct the people. That's how you have to think about it. There's all these ideas floating around. Okay, and we'll get into that in a minute with kind of the context. But this man sits down. He's going to give straight instruction aimed at the heart. Aimed at the heart. And this is how he starts. Yes. Yeah, either one if you can go. Yes.
So I'm always fascinated by the first line of a book. You've got to catch people right at the beginning. And some authors have amazing first lines. And so here's Jesus. And what he says, what you just caught it really, because it's about the heart. And so his first thing, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. That's the opposite of what they've been told. You know, it's not works. It's not all this other. I mean, it's like, what? You know? So he's got them. Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, really.
What he's saying, too, he's giving you answers for things that you're going to be dealing with in life.
I mean, it is. I mean, I think definitely, and I don't know, you know, I agree, like, and that's what sticks out to me, like the first lines of, you know, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. You know, we all love it. You know, I asked a kid the kid quoted that to me the other day. I'm like, what book's that from? He's like, Frankenstein. I'm like, nope, it's not. It's not. At least he knew. I'm like, it's a good guess. It's a good guess. Who wrote it? He's like, I don't know, I've only seen the movie. I'm like, all right. You know, so, you know, can't win them all, but yes. But yes, I mean, you think about that. You think about the strength of a first line. I mean, you think about, you know, Bill gave us copies of his sermons that he did on this that he did back in 2010, just to help us, to give us some notes and some stuff. And you know, as I was reading through, I was thinking, you know, his titles. I've always liked his titles. I'm terrible with titles, but you know, he titled it. It was March 7th, 2010. Happier the Unhappy, right? and I think about that, and really, like you were saying, Boo, like the contradiction of these statements, okay, like these paradoxical statements, really, and how they would have struck a chord to these people because they go against everything that was happening at the time. And so if you don't understand the context religiously, okay, in Judaism there are 4 groups. Okay, at this time you have the Pharisees, you have the Sadducees, you have the Essenes, I may not even be saying that right, okay, and you have the Zealots. Now, these were like your 4 groups, like Methodist, Baptist, Presbyterian. I mean, that's really what it is. You had 4 lenses through which you tried to interpret the law and the Old Testament and the practices. Okay, now the Pharisees were all about, of course, tradition. Oral tradition, the laws, keep the law. Keep the law, keep the law, keep the law, keep the law. Keep the traditions. It's what you did. You pounded your way through the gates of heaven with works. And it was extremely, extremely burdensome. You have to understand that. So like most of these people, all these people gathered understood that perspective. Then you also had the Sadducees. Okay, if you didn't know, the Sadducees were an extremely small group. And I didn't really realize this till I spent some time this week just really trying to understand their point of view. The Sadducees, anytime you see chief priest, that's a Sadducee. The chief priests were the elites. They were wealthy. They ran the temple. That was their gig. Okay? They were aristocrats. They were friends of Rome. And everybody hated the Sadducees. Everybody. Everybody, unless you were a Sadducee. Nobody, it was not popular to be a Sadducee. Caiaphas was a Sadducee. Okay? Right? And they believed in no afterlife. They only took the 5 books of the Old Testament. Okay? They didn't believe in the resurrection. They didn't believe anything the prophets had written. It was just that. If it wasn't in there, they didn't talk about it. They didn't want to. It was all about the now. Running the temple, the now, the now, the now. Okay? Okay? And so, they didn't believe in any of the things that we believe now, or that many things like the Pharisees believed in the resurrection. They believed in angels. They believed in these things. The Sadducees didn't. As MacArthur says, that's why they were so sad, you see. Okay? Right? But that's the truth. And so people knew them. You had that perspective. Okay? And the reason they were all about the now is because they were extremely wealthy. Okay? They had turned the temple into a den of thieves, you remember what Christ calls it, and were taking advantage of all these people and living extremely well. Now, they've all come to hate Christ, one, because he doesn't really deal with the Sadducees till when? Till he comes into the temple. Sadducees don't care what you do as long as they're making their money. Okay, now this is somewhat familiar today, right? We still have these groups, believe it or not. Okay? The Essenes believe they live out in caves in the middle of nowhere. They believe if they could get away from the world, if they could escape and run away and never come into contact with any sin, anything, they could be holy. They could be righteous. The problem is you can't run away from yourself. Right? Your feet can't carry you away from your own heart, which is the true problem. Then you had the Zealots, who were all about the kingdom now, the kingdom here. We're going to overthrow Rome. This is what we want. These were your 4 groups. Right? We have that today. We have legalism. Okay? We have the prosperity gospel who looks to take advantage of people. Okay? We have people, I think of the Essenes, I think of the Amish, the Mennonites, people who really believe if I can just run away from the world, I won't have any issues. And you have people now who are very political Christians. They want this kingdom. And I think about that, and I'm not... And what's crazy about this is they all have a small corner of the truth when you think about it. They do. And this is how most false teaching, most false doctrines start. They start with a little bit of truth. Does the law matter? Yes, it does. It's important. Are the old writings and the teachings and the traditions, we're going through Leviticus right now, they are important. They are real. They have a purpose. They shouldn't dominate your life into works-based salvation, because that's wrong. It's not what it teaches. But there is some part of truth in that for the Pharisees. The temple system, God had set it up. It was real. It was important. They were supposed to do this. Now, they had corrupted it, but that's how they got people to go along. They understood the importance of the temple. You could see the temple from miles. It was magnificent. Right? You would look at it and probably think, this is all we got. It's what we have to do. I don't like them. I can't stand them. But this is what I've been told to do. Yes, so you flee from sin. Like the Essenes. You should. You should try to avoid being in extremely sinful places, horrible places. There's some truth to that. Yes, there is a kingdom. It's real. It's not here. It's not something you're going to see in front of your face, but it's real. Does Christ tell Pilate, right? I've got a kingdom. Right? Aren't you a king? Yeah, I am. But it's not of this world. So they all have these notions, these parts of truth. And these people know these views. These are the people he's teaching. And then how does he start? Just like we talked about, with these paradoxical statements that destroy all the lies and false perceptions that they have. All of them. Blessed are you who are poor in spirit. It's opposite, right? It's opposite of everything they taught. Because the whole idea that attacks what? There's nothing, you don't have anything. You're destitute. You're bankrupt. You have no ability to do anything to show that you have some power to work your way into the kingdom. Right? That's the truth. That's what he's telling them. This would have been a slap in the face to the Pharisees. It's been a slap in the face to the Sadducees. It would have makes the Essenes sound crazy and the Zealots sound crazier. And then here we get to course 4. Blessed are those who mourn. Now, we'll start with this in just some openings. Okay, that's just the context so you understand what the beliefs are, what the religious temperaments are, how these people think as he teaches this, because I think it is really aimed at them. Now, it's easy for us a lot of times. We read the Beatitudes and we read the Sermon on the Mount. We know it. I would just, as you go through this week, as we go through teaching it, you can't read it enough. I'm just going to be honest. You can't, like when I got this one, I'm like, we all know what this means. It's not about being sad. It's about mourning your sin. We know it. I remember when I learned it. But I'm just telling you, the more that you really read it in context, in understanding, again and again and again, it'll really minister to you. And I think the only line I could think of always trying to understand when you think about real mourning, when you think about really mourning your sin. You know, I thought about the father in Mark 9, he brings his son, he's got an unclean spirit that makes him deaf, and he falls, and he has seizures, and he falls into the fire. You remember he comes to Christ, and he's like, can you help me? And Christ says, if you can believe. And what does he say? So remember? He said, I believe. Help my unbelief. And this week just really thinking about that, I don't, not necessarily the proper context to understand that, but that's how I really think as I read this, is really trying to think, do I really mourn? Do I really acknowledge how poor of spirit I am? It's like we know these things, right? We know them. But like it's one thing, like these are part of like who you are meant to be. Someone who's poor of spirit. Someone who mourns. Like we know we should. Like that I've prayed that all week. Like, Father, I know I really should mourn my sin. But it's really hard. It's really hard. It's really hard. Like I spend more time like mourning over not mourning. I mean, think about that. Like I don't dislike it enough. I'm not sensitive enough. It's hard. There is no greater battle. And life is hard. We all know life is hard. We lose people. We go through times of poverty. Like I think that about being poor. I remember when I was young, like before I really understood the Beatitudes and solid theology and things like that. Like I remember, like I turned 30 Tuesday, so Tuesday I'll be 30. Okay, and I don't miss. My wife was asking me, she's like, "Do you miss anything?" I'm like, "No, I do not miss my early 20s. I don't miss being broke, have nothing." Like I remember digging for change to get a burrito at Taco Bell at like 2 in the morning. Like I don't miss that. I don't miss being lonely and running class to class. I don't miss really not having kids. Okay, I don't miss that part of my life, especially where I was doing things I probably shouldn't have been doing because I was an idiot at 20. Not that I'm much better now, but a little bit. But I think about that, like I don't miss that. And I think about like when you come to understand, like and you think on these things more and more. I know it seems simple, like it really is. Right? We know what Christ said. Blessed are you who realize you need the Spirit, like you have none. Blessed are you who mourn over your sin. Like we understand that, but I don't know if we really grasp how serious this is. Yeah, it's everything. I mean, Christ is going to give his first sermon. He's got all these people listening. He has all these issues of false doctrines, false teachings, and he's trying to destroy every perception they have because it's all wrong. And there's all types of ways to mourn. People mourn all the time. People cry. Like I remember reading, throughout the Bible and all these parts. I mean, the Father weeps when his Son's saved. Christ weeps at Lazarus' graves. People weep for joy. People weep because they lose people. People weep because they wanted to sin and could not. Okay, people mourn over not. That's how wicked we are as people. People will mourn when they can't do things they shouldn't do. You remember David's son who mourned? I think it was David's son who wanted to sleep with his sister. Okay, is that right? Right, and he wept. He wanted her so bad, to defile her so badly that he wept. Ahab wanted his neighbor's vineyard so bad that he couldn't even look at it. He had to walk in his room like this so he couldn't look over in his neighbor. That's how bad he wanted it. To take it from me. Our hearts are so wicked, we can mourn over not being able to do things we shouldn't want to do. Yes?
In the context that you're talking about there, what is, and I agree with everything you just said, but what is Christ's second line there? If you do mourn, the outcome is they will be comforted. When you do mourn, when you do reach that point, at whatever point, because we all don't mourn enough.
Yeah.
But he's telling us that there's comfort. And you sin, I'm going to die. There will be payment for your sin. You will be comforted. I mean, I'm with you 100%. Every day it's just like, God, I don't know why I'm here.
Yeah. And to think, and that's what, getting into all these different types of mourning, and Paul talks about that, like godly sorrow, right, brings life. Worldly sorrow brings death. Like we all know that line. And there's tons of worldly sorrow, tons of experiences. Like we have psychiatrists from one end to the other who talk about searching yourself, look at your heart, and they all come out to the same conclusion, right? Forgive yourself, be a little bit better. Try to work on these things. It's a process, right? And that's not godly sorrow. That's not godly mourning, because godly mourning leads to repentance, right? And then like you were saying, Wally, comfort. That's the comfort. I don't want people to feel like this is meant to beat you up so bad that you walk around, okay, mourning to the point you just wallow in self-pity. That's not the purpose. Okay, the purpose is that in all this sorrow and this mourning that you look to what? To Christ. Right? We can have comfort and joy knowing, as great as our sin is, as much as we should mourn over our sin, God's grace is that much more. Right? What a reason to actually have some real happiness, some tangible joy. Yes.
So once again, it's so the opposite of what our natural person believes. Because C.S. Lewis, I think, said that pride is the underlying issue under all of our anti-God attitudes. And the opposite of that was Jesus' great quality of humility. So one of the beautiful ways for comfort in that, so the opposite of what we would ever understand if the Holy Spirit weren't in us, is that we're humbled. When we see our sin, I can't remember Spurgeon, but he said, we think God's less righteous than he is, and that we're more righteous than we are. And the more the Holy Spirit sanctifies us, and we understand ever greater ways the truth of that, and are in awe of God, and then we truly mourn, more and more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anybody else? Yes, Chris.
I know that it's talking specifically about sin here, but I also think about those that mourn that have a sickness, that might have cancer, that know that they are no longer in control, that they call out to God. I think about a lady that we knew, her name was Linda, and we met her on Valentine's
third thing that happened, her intestines had fallen. They had sewed her back up. We went to go visit her, and she was just full of joy. This woman had placed her trust in the Lord to such an extent that there was nothing that was thrown at her that made her mourn. The joy of the Lord, it made me cry just within inside myself to just see this lady that just had in less than a year so many things thrown at her that would have made any normal person mourn.
Yeah.
But to just be so filled with God's Spirit, He had comforted her for what she was experiencing.
Yeah, and I think they definitely go together. Like, think of the Psalms. Like, I mean, like, as I was reading through and looking at, like, a lot of the verses people were, like, think of the Psalms. Think of, like, all the Psalms David wrote. I mean, we all know, like, Psalm 23, right? We all know, like, you comfort me. You're good to me. You're the good shepherd, right? And then think of all the I'm wrecked by my sin. It's ever before me. I was conceived in sin, right? It's constantly, they go together. Right? There's not a moment, like David says, that I cannot look at myself and see a wicked individual. But not all his psalms are sad. Not all his psalms are miserable or wallow in self-pity, because there is, again, back to what we're saying, a comfort in that. In knowing that it's not dependent upon me. Like, that's the biggest benefit. And you got to think about how burdened these people he's speaking to are. I mean, imagine waking up every day with a list of rules you have to keep, and they're hard. They're really, really hard. Like I can't describe, like, the things they're not allowed to do, the things they have to do. They got to go to the temple. These people are being robbed every day by their own temple. I mean, think of it. Life is not grand. It's not. Okay? They have all these false ideas, all these false beliefs, yes. Mm-hmm. No, it's fine.
So up above that, the context is Jesus was healing every disease, every affliction among the people. So, you're talking about the spiritual side of the Beatitudes. Is there a physical meaning as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's, I think, yes. I mean, I think that he understands that people, because Jesus had a physical mourning too.
And his audience that he's speaking to are the poor.
Yeah. I mean, I think yes. And I think there is like some basic application there in that statement. I think they could have took it. I'll come to you in just a minute. I just think that too, I mean, because Christ, sometimes we get lost. Christ was God and man. He's both. And he experienced, like it talked about the son of suffering. It talks about those things. And so, like, Christ was poor. Christ went hungry. Christ dealt with these things. Like, he's not above, like, feeling our affliction. And so I do think there is some there. I do think, like, ideally, like, at least theologically, what he's teaching here, it is aimed at the heart. It is aimed spiritually. But, yes, I do think they take it that way. And you got to understand, these people are also trying to decipher this. Like, you have to think about it, too. Like, if you were just hearing this, and what does it take to believe? Like, God has to regenerate you to understand this. I mean, think about that. Like, you don't come to really understanding. The realization of you're poor in spirit comes from who? It's not of yourself. Right? Okay? No one just walks by one day and looks in the mirror and says, you know what? I got nothing. I just realized that. Okay? I mean, think about that. But there is truth. But there is truth to both. Right? That there is a real mourning. Sometimes, maybe God uses that to lead you to that point. I've seen people saved at funerals. God is sovereign in how he uses, your grief, your sorrow. I mean, that's the great thing, is that nothing is happening by coincidence. What a miserable world if it was. If there's no purpose to the troubles you experience. And I think there is like some basic application in that. Like you were saying, Miss Allison, like I do think there is, yes, some truth to physical mourning of not the spiritual kind. of what he's saying. I do think it's aimed at the heart, but I do think people would have understood that, like you were saying. They understood what it was to be poor. They understood what it was, especially these people who are outside these groups. Because they're in Galilee, right? So you got to think, not every member there's a Pharisee, not every member's a zealot. I mean, there's some probably just a lot of poor fishermen, confused people, just trying to get some bread, be healed, try to figure out what's going on. I mean, think about it. It would have been a confusing time. They are desperate. There's a lot of desperate people there. Yes, Noah?
Rachel, to your point, that was actually a reality that hit home one of the last days in the hospital. I guess this was back in February. It was one of those just hopeless evenings when you were leaving the hospital, like, how much longer are we going to be here? And that verse, Matthew 5:4, hit me. Like, there is, in a sense, because no one would consider physical desperation, for affliction in whatever capacity as a blessed thing. I think I would totally agree with you there, and I would agree with Noah. The main point is, I think, spiritual, but when you think of it in the physical sense, they are tied together, in a sense, I think, in the Lord's understanding. So those who mourn because of affliction in this life are blessed, not in the sense that the affliction is just really awesome and we love it, but because it often, it can turn your eyes away from the lust of the world, the lust of the flesh, and the boastful pride of life, like John speaks of. And it kind of makes you focus on things that are transient. There's a blessedness in that, and that it makes you more sober-minded toward how frail life is. And it kind of necessarily focuses you on the end for which we were created.
Yeah, yes.
Good passage, good one. 2 Corinthians chapter 1. Just read this real quick. It says, Blessed be the God and Father of the Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our afflictions, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God. For as we share abundantly in Christ's sufferings, so through Christ we share abundantly in comfort too. If we are afflicted, it is for your comfort and salvation. If we are comforted, it is for your comfort, which you experience when you patiently endure the same sufferings that we suffer. Hope for you is unshaken. We know that as you share in our sufferings, you also share in our comfort. So it's
I think that also includes our own prayer life, the suffering, to know the physical suffering of people like Jim Smith, and the mourning that he experiences because of that suffering. And I know that the comforting and all is from the Scripture and from the Spirit of God. But I think it also relates to how we need to comfort those, that are experiencing from what he had read there out of 1 Corinthians, those that are being afflicted.
Yeah. Well, and I do think beyond, like, on the flip side of the spiritual side too, I mean, we're meant to mourn other people's sin as well. I mean, that's the truth. I mean, Jesus, think about the story of Lazarus, when Jesus weeps for Lazarus. Like, there's probably, yes, some sense of the physical, he's lost a friend. But what's Christ going to do in about 10 minutes? He's going to raise him from the dead, right? So he's not just weeping at the fact that Lazarus is dead, because he's about to remedy that quickly. He's weeping at, like, the state of mankind, right? People are dying because of what? Sin. Because of this cursed world we live in, because of sin. He mourns over Jerusalem because he loves them. He cares for them. They're his people, right? And he weeps at the state of their hearts. Like, so yes, in the physical sense, obviously, we do mourn. That is part of it. We mourn with other people who are afflicted by things. But we should mourn spiritually for them as well. And like, I think about that too. That's hard at times. Like, I struggle at that greatly. Like, my first response is like, get your life together. You know what I mean? And it's hard. It's hard. And then until it really hits home, and many of you probably know that, you guys who've really, raised kids for longer or had family members, like you have a family member trapped in sin and struggling, and you don't realize how powerless they are and how powerless you are. What else is there for you to do but mourn? I want you to think about that. Like I think about that, right? I got like a situation, I think about it all the time. Like, I can do nothing. There's no words of wisdom I can give. There's no physical acts I can do. I can do nothing but mourn their sin and pray that God works. That's all I've got. I want you to think about it, and that's part of being poor in spirit. The reason it's in this order, I kind of skipped over that. I'm sorry about that. But think about the order. When you realize that you're spiritually poor, what should it lead to? Mourning. Does that make sense? There's a reason to the order. He doesn't just throw out random order like here's a checklist. Do in any such order. Okay? You realize through regeneration, God opens your eyes. You realize you're a poor spirit, and the only correct response is to mourn. Mourn. You know, and there's a godly type of mourning that we have to understand. Like the godly mourning, what he's talking about, turns you to Christ. Not self-pity. Not total desperate. I mean, you're desperate, but not total like despair. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Michael. I'm going to bring you to class with me Monday. But in all seriousness, I want you to think of people, right? Some people look, and for many of these people, they look at themselves and they say, you know what, just like Booth's quote. I actually used that, says, I had that, so that quote from C.S. Lewis, I'll read it at the end. But, you know, they look at themselves and they say, you know what, I'm not that bad. I'm not that, I can do this. I can pull myself back together, and I've fallen off this train of works, and I can hop right back on. And I can row this poor, pitiful boat, except you don't have a boat. You're just drowning. Yes.
That's the problem, too, and what we do is compare ourselves to everybody else instead of Christ.
Yeah.
If we compare ourselves to Christ, we're in big trouble.
Yes. Right. And the other thing is, I'll come right to you, David, it's like there's a type of despair that's not, like, think of Judas, right? Judas realizes he understands what he's done. He can't take it. He falls into total despair, and he takes his own life. Like, that is true. Both of those are not good. That's not God's intention in mourning. Like I want everybody to understand that. Like, I do not want you to leave here. I want us to take mourning seriously. And I want us to take the sorrows that we should feel and the afflictions that God felt, right? He feels our own afflictions. That we understand that the end result is not to be a miserable, unhappy people. Just like, please don't walk out here and say, you know what? I'm going out, I'm burning my house down, I'm done. This is it. That's not what I'm saying. Yes, Dave.
Yeah, because both are true. That there is a mourning and a rejoicing.
Mm-hmm.
The comfort that we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so I'll just read this, if you don't mind me. 2 Corinthians 7, Paul's talking to the people that he had to correct discipline, right? But here Paul's saying it is, as it is, I rejoice not because you were grieved, but because you were grieved into repenting, for you felt a godly grief, so that you suffered no loss for us. But godly grief produces repentance that leads to salvation.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's joyful. That's comfort, right? I have a sin problem before a holy God that makes me mourn. It drives me to realize massive problem. But the problem is solved through Christ.
Yes.
And now this joy is comfort. I have salvation. I am reconciled with my God. I have a proper realization of what sin is. I have a new heart that God puts in me, right? The desire toward righteousness, toward glorifying God. What a comfort that is. So both are true, right?
Yeah.
This mourning over sin, a realization, awfulness of that, but then there's that joy and comfort that God gives. It's miraculous. It's Holy Spirit given. We can't drum it up of ourselves. We can't do it by works, as you said. So, yeah, and then it goes on there, but anyway, it's that comforting.
Yeah, no.
I'm just gonna piggyback off of that. In the thought of how difficult it is to mourn rightly over our sin, I think there's a direct relationship between the gravity of our sin and how deeply we understand the cross. There is a beautiful line, I think one of the most beautiful lines in all of hymnody, and we sing it during Christmas, or not Christmas, Easter. It's hymn 257, stricken, smitten, and afflicted. Line 3 says, ye who think of sin but lightly, nor suppose the evil great, here may view its nature rightly, here its guilt may estimate. Mark the sacrifice appointed, see who bears the awful load. 'Tis the work the Lord's anointed, Son of Man and Son of God. I think that's the gospel version of feeling mournful think of the saying is the deeper you perceive the weight of the cross, the deeper you'll necessarily understand your sin.
Yeah, and I just add on to that at the end, and there's, say this balancing act, but like there is a truth to being sorrowful and not being, I don't want to say like too joyful, not by in the things of Christ, but like we live in a world full of distractions. Like we live in a world full of like false happiness that it throws at you everywhere you go. And like, you know, I think of the verse, I think it's Ecclesiastes, where it's like, you know, the sword is sharpened and it's brandished, yet you make merry, right? Like there is a major issue, right? The people were sinful. God was going to punish them, and they were continuing to what? Eat, drink, party, right? And he's like, you have no idea what is coming for you, right? There is that sense like we are continual mourners. One, because we never just stop sinning. Does that make sense? Like there's ever a point where like I have to mourn no more because I'm all better, right? So I mean that's something, and we should be mourning over other people, but there is this seriousness. There should be this serious to us as a Christian people of our own sin, of the sin of others. Not that we're legalistic about it and putting them down, but we care for our brothers. We want to see them better. We want to see them growing in Christ. And, I mean, for your nation, for this world. I mean, think about it. You watch the news. I mean, how can you not mourn? I mean, flip it on for 2 seconds. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we are a serious people. I want you to think, and I'll end with this, and I'll let you guys talk real quick before we go. But think about Jesus. And I thought about this because this was in the book we're reading. We have so many times where Jesus wept, recorded in the Bible. We don't have a single time where he laughed, recorded. I want you to think about that. I'm not saying he never laughed. I'm not trying to make an argument out of silence. I'm just saying as far as what the writers, what the Holy Spirit decided to write and what was important, we don't get a lot of joyful times because life is hard. Life is miserable in a lot of ways. The struggle. So think about Paul, a wretched man that I am. Like Paul's like, it's better that I be dead and with Christ. That we should have some of that about us. I'm not saying we're miserable, depressed, mopey people. But there is a seriousness to the way that we should act and think and worship and teach. Right? We see so much foolishness in churches now when people do things and they don't realize the seriousness. Christ does. Christ was serious. I mean, think of all the prophecy. He is a man. A man will come to you, tender as a reed, be smoted, whatever. A man of sorrow. Right? Not a man of happiness and gleefully. Okay, that prances around. He was sorrowful. It was hard for Christ. This wasn't a vacation, a holiday. Right? He comes, what does he say? He says later, he's like, cursed you who laugh. Right? He flips it on them. It's like you people who laugh and make merry, you're taking advantage of this people. You love this system. Right? Enjoy it now. Because your laughter will turn to sorrow. The exact opposite. Right? I think he says that in like Matthew 9. I can't remember. Right? But he flips it up. He flips it on the people's head because to those who mourn, they'll be comforted. Those who everything's now will see their joy turn to sorrow. Right? Our sorrow, our godly sorrow that he gives us. Right? And even back to like you were saying, right? Even the physical things we experience, we have relief from in Christ. If not this life or the next. We don't have to fear death. If a loved one is saved and they pass away, we don't have to fall on the coffin and refuse for them to be buried. Like they have hope. Like there is a comfort in all things because of Christ. And I think that's really for these people what he's getting at. And to hit Boo's quote, because I did put it in here, I'm really glad. It's from Mere Christian. It says, as long as you are proud, you can't know God. Because the proud man is always looking down on others. And that's the wrong direction to see God. Right? I mean, it's quote. I mean, be humble, not miserable. Right? You know what I'm saying? Mourn. There's a difference between that and self-pity. Understand God's not a God of well, I want a self-pitiful people that can do nothing. right? But there is a seriousness. There's a realness to what Christ is calling for his people here and for their hearts, right? This is all about the heart. This is what, so, and these guys will go on and they'll keep teaching as they go through. But think about this. These people have never understood to this point how real it is spiritually. Everything's been an act. Everything's been a very shallow version till now. And this is how we start. All right, I'll close this in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for this time. I thank you for your word. Father, may our hearts be sensitive. May you make our hearts sensitive, Father, to our sin. Father, may we be willing to bear others' burdens. Father, and to mourn. May there be a seriousness about us when it comes to your word, when it comes to your commands, when it comes to our worship of you, Father. May we understand this is a very real thing, Father. May we not fall into despair. May we not look to works. May we not look to our unrighteousness, Father. But may we find comfort in the work of your Son. Father, I pray that as we go into the service, Father, that you be with Bill, that you be with all the people who have a part in our service, Father, and that we may worship you in spirit and in truth. In your name we pray.